Live from the bridge at the Launchpad Studios in Huntington, New York, it's Sports Talk New York with your hosts, Mark Rosenman and AJ Carter. Sports Talk New York is sponsored in part by Cardboard Memories, Clearview, Long Island, the law firm of Decolator, Cohen, and DePrisco, the Phoenix Tube Company, PIMS Incorporated, fueling brand performance for 30 years, Prince Associates for all your insurance needs, and Soho Table Hockey. Here are your hosts, Mark and AJ.
And good Sunday evening to you, Mark Roseman, AJ Carter with you this Sunday evening. Jam-packed Sunday of football, weekend of football. We'll talk all about that with Jay Retcher a little down the road. He's not going to be a happy camper, it looks like right now. But, you know, Tom Brady can't say that.
You know, it's Tom Brady, and it's only two scores. Who knows what can happen?
Exactly. And by the time we get to Jay, Tom Brady might have won this game, but we'll save that for later because it's time now for the Major League Baseball Report with John Coppinger. It's sponsored by Cardboard Memories, which is one of Long Island's most reputable memorabilia retail stores for over 29 years. The owner of Cardboard Memories, Scott Stamell, is known for his knowledge and savvy of authentic autographs. He's been featured on HBO Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Cardboard Memories possesses the honesty, integrity one would want and need from a memorabilia source. Cardboard Memories is always buying collections, large and small. Let Cardboard Memories run your next charity fundraising auction. Call them to find out how they can help your organization at no cost. Cardboard Memories is located at 6401 Jericho Turnpike, Comac, New York. Visit them on the web at cardboardmemories.com or follow them on Facebook or Instagram. Okay, John, not a lot of news. I mean, the first thing is the Mets have finally formally announced all their entire coaching staff. Your thoughts on Glenn Sherlock? He's returning to the Mets this time as a bench coach. I really didn't see this. This one kind of surprised me, kind of an out of left field hire. What are your thoughts on Glenn Sherlock getting the job as the bench coach?
Yeah, it surprised me too, especially since he was there before and he wasn't gone too long, and now he gets a promotion. It just shows you how baseball is a roundabout business, and if you have relationships with the right people, if you know a guy that is comfortable with you and wants to bring you back, then that's what this is about. It's almost like Sherlock is a retread, but he's really not, because he's got relationships with Showalter and this staff. So it's kind of surprising in a roundabout way. I agree.
I have to disagree with Mark that not much is happening. Actually, something big could be happening tomorrow. We've got the Players Association coming back with a response to the really non-response that Major League Baseball put out a couple of weeks ago. So we actually have an in-person bargaining session tomorrow. John, do you think this is a sign that they're going to get serious in movement? Or think it's been more, window dressing? We'll do something. It's not going to be much of a movement, and it'll be just as far apart as ever.
The fact that it's in person is encouraging, but what's not encouraging is that this is the Players Association's their first offer. And, just like Major League Baseball's first offer, the Players Association's first offer is going to basically be exactly what they want. And I can't see Major League Baseball agreeing to this offer. Now, the question is it going to be conciliatory enough where they feel that there's a small enough gap where they can keep talking about it? I'm not sure it will be. I think we're going to see the manifestation of the bad relations that the owners and players have had all along. I don't see this leading to day-to-day talks right away. I certainly think this offer is going to be rejected out of hand, and we'll see where we go from there. I'm not encouraged that this is the offer that's going to spark day-to-day talks.
Well, I'm sure this is not the offer, but the question is, when will they borrow the phrase from the Corleone family, go to the mattresses? At some point, is it a week from now? Is it 2 weeks from now? Spring training is approaching. They have to start doing playing. A lot of, all the arbitration, however that's going to work, things have to be settled too. I think we'll have a better sense by tomorrow afternoon of when they're going to really, truly get serious. I think we agree that this proposal, by the way, touchdown now Tampa Bay, that, they're really, getting serious, I think, by the end of the week.
I agree.
You'd hope so. You would hope so. I'm not as optimistic about that, but we'll see. If they get serious before the Super Bowl, that's a good sign.
I agree. I think this gets the ball rolling. I think they realize, listen, if they don't realize what this country has gone through, what other businesses have gone through, that both sides, ownership and players, make a very nice living off of this game. I think they will do irreparable damage to this sport if they don't get things started on time. And I think cooler heads will prevail. And I think this is the first step. I think this is a very important week for baseball. Additionally, another one thing that's going to happen this week is the Hall of Fame vote. Basically, based on the early tabulations, what they're saying right now, it looks like David Ortiz might be the only one getting in, but there has been some traction for the Bonds and Clemens and such. What are your thoughts, John?
I think it's going to be David and nobody else. When you look at the Hall of Fame tracker right now, it's Bonds and Clemens and Ortiz that have over the 75% threshold. But as we know, the numbers tend to go down when you get more ballots in. And Bonds and Clemens are just over the 75% mark, whereas David Ortiz is at the 84% mark around there. So I do think it's going to be David, and that's it.
Awesome. We'll talk all about it next week. Hopefully we'll have some good news on the baseball front. John Coppinger heard here each and every week with the Cardboard Memories Major League Baseball report. We're going to take a quick break on the other side. The reason why am I wearing my USA Olympic jersey is because we're going to have the head coach of the USA Olympic hockey team, David Quinn, right after this.
Do you own a business? When is the last time you actually had a visit from or even spoke with your insurance representative? Did your current insurance agency sell to another firm or maybe merge, leaving you without the attention you deserve? Prince Associates is a provider of commercial insurance nationwide and represents some of the finest insurance carriers in the industry. Prince Associates has been representing commercial clients since 1965, and we continue to grow and offer our personal services in a competitive and ever-changing market. If you want back the insurance relationship you deserve, reach out to us, 516-822-6550. That's area code 516-822-6550. And ask for Leith or Craig, or find us on the web at www.princeins.com.
And welcome back to Sports Talk New York this Sunday evening. Hopefully you're just watching the football game with it on mute, because it is a great game, and you can never count Tom Brady out, and that's what we've been saying all afternoon. Joining us now is the man who was the 13th overall pick of the Minnesota North Stars in the 1984 NHL draft. Instead of turning pro immediately after being drafted, he instead opted to play collegiately for Boston University. After his junior season, he tried out for the 1988 U.S. Olympic team. However, during his tryout, he was diagnosed with hemophilia B, also known as Christmas disease, a rare disorder which prevents blood from clotting properly. He would, however, stay in the game as a coach, which included being named the 11th head coach of his alma mater, Boston University, replacing the legendary Jack Parker, where he compiled an impressive 105-69-21 record, which included a national championship as well as conference championships. He left BU to become the head coach of the New York Rangers during their rebuild. In 3 seasons, he also compiled a winning record, despite having one of the youngest teams in the NHL. On December 27th, he was named the head coach of the U.S. Olympic hockey team that will be headed to Beijing to compete for a gold medal. It is a pleasure to welcome back David Quinn to Sports Talk New York. Welcome, Coach.
Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great. So, I guess after being a head coach in the NHL during the COVID-19 pandemic, you've learned to adapt rapidly, changing, events in a hurry. But I still have to imagine that getting ready to be an assistant on Mike Sullivan's coaching staff for the U.S. team, made up of NHL players at the upcoming Winter Olympics, and then having to pivot to be the head coach with mostly college athletes just 45 days prior to the first game has to have a lot of challenges. What was the greatest challenge, first when you found out and to date?
Well, obviously we had to change gears in a hurry. The good news is that obviously you prepare for the unexpected in these times. Obviously COVID has thrown a curveball to all of us, no matter what profession you're in. And, when I was asked to be the assistant coach in the summer, John Van Beesbrook and I had a conversation that if for some reason the NHL doesn't allow the players to go, would I want to be the head coach? And I said, absolutely. If I wasn't employed, I'd love to be the head coach. So, and, leading into the final decision, you heard rumblings and there were indications that the NHL guys weren't going to go. So we kind of started preparing for it a little bit. But, I got to give, USA Hockey and John Van Beesbrook and Mark Boxer a ton of credit, because we switched gears in a hurry. And they did a heck of a job in a short period of time of, identifying the player pool. And for us to put this team together, we feel so good about it. And there was a lot of work put into it. It was only 3 weeks. It felt like a lot longer than that. But like you touched on, in this day and age, you got to adapt, you got to adjust. And, we certainly did.
The growth and development of USA Hockey probably can be traced back to one of the greatest Olympic stories ever, and that, of course, I'm talking about the Miracle on Ice 1980 U.S. gold medal team that won in Lake Placid. Interestingly enough, was the last gold medal. What impact did that team have on you? And can you share with our audience who you watched that magic moment with?
Well, funny, I was 14 years old, and former Islander coach Jack Capuano and I grew up about a mile from each other. We're great friends growing up, played youth hockey together. And I actually watched that game at his house. And, when that happened, from there on in, I think anybody who played hockey in America wanted to be an Olympian in some capacity. And that certainly was a goal of mine. That was what was so disappointing in '88. And, it just really changed hockey in America forever. And, we will forever be indebted to that team. American hockey world has come so far since then. And but as I jokingly said to Mike Resume, I think we need to win a gold medal because people are tired of hearing from you. So hopefully we can. Mike said, "Hey, I hope you do win. I'm tired of talking." So hopefully we can go over there and achieve the ultimate goal.
As I sit here in my Mike Ruzioni jersey, no less.
Yeah.
So you look at that team, and so much was written about, movies, documentaries as well. And the central theme is the way Herb got that group together. He made pretty much all of them have a universal dislike for him. He pushed all the right buttons, but he also had that luxury of that full slate of exhibition games and travel, which allowed the team to bond. Which is the biggest challenge you face in a COVID world, trying to get these guys to bond in such a short period of time?
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. I think a lot of teams are going to have similar challenges in this tournament. Ours may be a little bit greater because a lot of these teams have played together before on national teams. A lot of the European teams are drawing players from their pro leagues, which they've done in the past. So our challenges may be a little bit different, but that being said, we feel very confident in the group we have from a player standpoint, the staff standpoint, that we've got an awful lot of experience in international hockey. All the coaches have coached in world championships or world juniors, or Scott Young's played in 3 Olympics. So I think we've got a pretty good feel of what it's going to take to accelerate that bonding process and bringing our group together, as do the players. A lot of them have played international competition. So I think there is something all of us can draw from in the past that will allow us to do that.
So there's tremendous irony in this as well, because you were going to be an assistant coach on the team with a lot of NHL players with tons of experience. I remember asking you, when you hear with the Rangers about your teams at BU or the Rangers always being the youngest team, and you said, yeah, maybe one day you're going to get a chance to coach an experienced group. Well, that's not happening this month. This roster is mostly college kids, prospects. The average age is 25. At least at BU or with the Rangers, you had some time to shape an identity. Do you have a finger on the pulse of what you think the identity of this team will be going in?
Well, when we had to change gears, John and I talked, and he asked what type of team would I want. I said, well, we're going to have to put together the best team from the group that we have to draw from. So it was clear to us early on that it looked like speed was going to be the way we were going to go, because we weren't going to be a big, heavy team. So, that was certainly part of the makeup when we were identifying which players we were going to pick. And obviously the makeup too was a 200-foot player, and the personalities weighed into the decision-making process. So that's kind of how the team's been built. That's how we plan on playing.
Internationally, you most recently coached for the U.S. as an assistant at the 2016 World Championship. Also was on staff for that tournament in 2007, 2012. Also, after the pause, there was like a play-in type tournament. How does playing a tournament differ, as far as mindset, from game one, from when that puck drops, when that tournament starts, as opposed to a regular college season?
Well, obviously every game's more important, and, the way this tournament's structured, you don't have a lot of time for mulligans, that's for sure. And we certainly understand that. And we're going to do everything we can to be fully prepared for the first game against China. We're hopefully going to be able to skate in LA when we get out there next weekend. That's part of the plan. But, we want to make sure we're in a good environment, a safe environment, that we will be able to practice and not put anybody in harm's way where we're going to be exposed to COVID, because our health is first and foremost a priority before we get into that bubble in China.
It's also interesting because there's some guys you have familiarity with. You coached David Warsofsky at BU, Stephen Kampfer here a little bit with the Rangers. You coached against Nick Shore, Kenny Agostino, and Andy Mealy, and Brian O'Neill. What are some of the things those guys do well that caught your eye that made you want them on this team?
Well, they're really good players, and they've had really good careers, and they all just, fell short of, reaching an NHL career, consistent NHL career. But they've gone on and done very well in Europe. They're winners. They're guys that we know can help our younger players move forward and adapt quickly to what type of hockey we're going to see. So, we feel very, very good about the older group that we have as well as the younger group. We love the mix of the team.
I guess the one guy that the casual hockey fan probably knows about it is Matty Beniers, who was the second overall draft pick. It comes with a lot of pressure. You've had experience coaching 2 high draft picks here with high expectations. A tournament's different. But what can you take from your time with Capo Caco and Alexis Lafreniere to let Matty know not to put so much pressure on himself going into this tournament?
Yeah, well, for Matty, it's a little bit different. The NHL, those 2 guys walked onto a team that was a lot different than most first and second picks overall. Usually those teams are, at the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the standings. And the hard part for Capo and for Laffy is that they walked onto a team with established top 6 forwards. It's going to be difficult for them to break that top 6 right out of the gate the way usually that the first or second pick overall can. They're great players. They're going to be great players. But the circumstance is different here for Beniers just because, because of the makeup of the tournament. And the fact that, we're going to find out who our top 6 forwards are. We don't have anything set in stone.
Your time here in New York, it seemed like you always was a champion for the guys who may have been overlooked or had setbacks in their careers, guys like Colin Blackwell. You have a goalie in Strauss Mann who, after a tough freshman year, developed into one of the premier goalies in college hockey. He posted a .930 save percentage in each of the 2 seasons and was named the finalist for the Mike Richter Award. He's having a great year in Sweden after leaving Michigan. What can you tell us about his game?
Well, he's very, very competitive. He's not big, but he competes. He's square to the puck. He plays his angles well. He doesn't waste energy or movements, and he's really put himself in a great position. We feel good about all 3 goalies. Like I said, there's a lot of competition in a short period of time to see who's going to be the number 1 goalie and, as who's going to be our top 6 forwards. And we have an idea of what we're going to look like, but that could change in a hurry.
Well, that's also interesting because 15 of the 25 players on the roster currently playing in college hockey. The school with the most players selected in USA was Minnesota with 3. Michigan, Harvard, Boston College, and St. Cloud each have 2. You have a few pair of forwards that come from the same team or line mates, like Matthew Nyes, who was a second-round pick of the Maple Leafs in 2021, and his Golden Gopher teammate Ben Myers. Harvard's Nick Brusacy and Sean Farrell, Kenny Agostino and Andy Mealy are teammates in the KHL, and Matty Beniers and Brendan Breeson are line mates at Michigan. With such a limited time, is there added pressure to say, all right, let's, those are 8 combinations right there. That's 4 lines, 2 guys each from each college. Or do you have actual time to mix and match and see, who plays best with everybody?
Yeah, I think we're certainly going to lean towards looking at that to start. But like I said, there's going to be, I'm not going to say the tryouts because we've got the team picked, but, we're going to, practices are going to mean a lot to us because we're going to evaluate what we see in practice and the few 5 to 6 we're going to have to decide who's got chemistry and who doesn't. That's something we've got to really pay attention to. But it certainly makes sense to, when we start, to maybe lean towards playing guys that are familiar with each other.
We mentioned how you had to switch gears quickly once the NHL was not sending players, but some of the players on your roster, Beniers, Faber, Sanderson, Breeson, have had a bit of a whirlwind as they were all set to play in the World Juniors last month until that tournament was canceled. It's not a bad consolation prize when you don't get to play that, but you get a chance to represent your country in the Olympics. Have you gauged, what these players are feeling that now, didn't play in the World Juniors, but now are going to Beijing to represent the USA?
Yeah, they're incredibly excited. I know John Van Beesbrook, when he was up in Edmonton and Red Deer, when the tournament got canceled, I know we reached out to, 4 of those guys to give them the good news. So it certainly made their flight a lot easier coming back from the World Juniors, knowing that they were going to be Olympians. So, Those guys have had a lot of success internationally, and we hope to add to that their international resume.
One player that was talked about as a possibility for this team, but as soon as we knew that the NHL players were not going, was Bobby Ryan. And granted, it's not as big news as it was in 2014 when he was passed over by the U.S. Olympic hockey team, despite his strong play and a great first half of that season. But he was on the last USA Olympic team to medal in 2010. How strong was his leadership and experience level weighed as opposed to, he probably can't do what he did years back as 34-year-old now, and how tough of a decision was that to leave him off the roster?
It wasn't easy. I mean, we went back and forth with our roster. The roster changed quite a bit in the 3 weeks that we were meeting and watching and evaluating, and it just came down to the fact that we were pretty adamant as we got to the end as a group, and it was a collaborative effort for sure. I mean, it wasn't just one person. We all felt the same way about it. Is we wanted to take people that have been playing by the end of the day, by the end of the process, and that was the difference maker for a few guys. And it wasn't easy to do, to leave him off the team, that's for sure.
So lastly, we talked about you watching that 1980 team with Jack Capuano, and you know me, and I'm always looking for parallels. And you take a look. The 1980 team, Herb was the last guy cut from the 1960 Olympic team as a player. He comes back to coach a group of college kids, mostly from Massachusetts and Minnesota, 20 years after he was cut from a team to win the gold. You can't play in 88 games because of the blood disorder. You get cut from the 92 team. You return 30 years from being cut to coach a team. You see where I'm going here. Mostly college kids from Massachusetts and Minnesota. You just got the Ranger part in reverse order from Herb. He ended up coaching them after the Olympics. But in all seriousness, have you really thought about the parallels? And, have you thought about what winning a gold medal, at this Olympics would mean to the kids and you as personally for you?
Yeah, well, you got me feeling old is what you got me feeling after telling me it was 30 years ago. No, it's, it's funny, Mark. I haven't really, you get the job and you're flattered, you're humbled, you're coaching the U.S. Olympic team, and then quickly you turn gears towards, we got to put a team together. We got to get prepared as a staff. So, there's been a lot of that for sure. But every time we talk to the players and we talk as a staff, we're getting excited about our team. And, I know people are talking about how young we are and, it's going to be an uphill climb and how you're going to be able to become a team in a short period of time. Well, that's life. And nobody cares, about the circumstances. The only thing that matters is how you do in the tournament. And, there's an awful lot of optimism. We feel really good about the team we put together and our chances of winning a gold medal.
So I think the flight is 18 hours. So I'm trying to calculate. You could probably watch Miracle like 7 times during the flight. It's interesting that I love the fact that Matty Bernier said that he basically every year at school would write, that it was his favorite movie. Yeah. So, Coach, thanks so much for your time tonight. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I said the last time when we closed the interview, I look forward to having you on the show again when you get a job coaching in the NHL. I'm going to amend that a little bit. I look forward to talking to you again, when you come back with a gold medal.
I love it. I would absolutely look forward to doing that, Mark.
All right. Miss you, Coach, for sure.
All right.
Always
Thanks,
great
buddy.
talking to you. U.S. Olympic hockey head coach David Quinn. Back with more hockey with Russ Cohn right after this.
The Phoenix Tube Company Incorporated is among the country's leading manufacturers of structural ornamental stainless steel tubing, rectangles, squares, and processed flat bars. The company takes pride in its everyday commitment to quality and customer service. The philosophy of the company has been and continues to be to support the growth of the stainless tube market through distribution and service centers throughout the country. Ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing is used for a wide variety of aesthetic and mechanical products where superior finish and corrosion resistance are required. Some products manufactured include tubing for mirror bracket arms, boat rails and ladders, washroom grab bars, swimming pool rail products, medical equipment, automotive step bars and trimming, as well as structural framing for food processing equipment. For a quote or for more information on how the Phoenix Tube Company can meet your ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing needs, Visit them on the web at phoenixtube.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-526-2124.
And welcome back to Sports Talk New York this Sunday night. Unbelievable. Tom Brady did it. He came all the way back. The defense, which was really steady the entire second half when it mattered most, spit the bit, a long play, field goal, and, Tom Brady's not going back to a Super Bowl, that's for sure. The Rams, they pivoted from Goff, and I'll tell you, kid played some game today, and, they are going to go to the NFL championship game. We'll talk more about it a little later with, I'm sure, a very dejected Jay Retcher. You come all the way back like that. This is a devastating loss. When you make that comeback, and you get all the way there and to lose the game with 4 seconds left, I'm sure Jay will not be a happy camper. But we're going to pivot to talking NHL with AJ, actually. It's time for the NHL Report with AJ Carter. It's sponsored by our friends over at Soho Table Hockey. What's table hockey, you say? Some of us might have.
Table hockey?
There you go. What's table hockey, you say? Some of us might have grown up with rod hockey or bubble hockey or even air hockey tables. Soho Table Hockey has embraced the nostalgia of those old tabletop games, designed a whole new board for the future. Handcrafted with designer wood, state-of-the-art playing surface, unbendable rods, energy-absorbing walls. This is a table hockey game that players age 8 to 80 can enjoy. Even better, the exceptional quality and design allows the game to stand up to the intensity of tournaments, which is why Soho Table Hockey is the #1 choice of championship players throughout North America. Visit SohoTableHockey.com to learn more. Start your order on a custom game. You can choose your wood, a centerized logo, and even the team matchups. Go ahead, drop the puck. You'll love Soho Table Hockey so much you won't be able to stop playing. So we're going to do this twofold. We're going to talk a little with AJ, and we're also going to talk a little with Mike Capece here. All right, so AJ, the topic I really want to speak to you about is Clark Gillies. And Clark Gillies meant so much to, not only the Islanders, but Long Island itself. Charitable guy, member of the 4 Stanley Cups, just a really nice guy.
Two things. One about Gillies, one about that whole team. Gillies, like that whole team, they stayed. They won the 4 cups, and they stayed. They stayed on Long Island, and they became fixtures in the community. There was Gillies, was Bobby Nystrom, some of the other people on the team. They got involved. Pat LaFontaine wasn't on that team, but they came. They got involved in the community. They became true Islanders in a different sense. Gillies, his contributions, the $1 million he raised for the children's emergency room at Huntington Hospital. I would see him when I was writing my column in the business section for Newsday. He would be a speaker. I remember he once was emceeing something sort of on the spot, and he told a little off-color joke, and it was sort of tongues were wagging, but that really was him. It was what he was like, but he was respected. He was loved because, like a lot of other members of the Islanders team, they played and they stayed and they contributed to the community. And that's really, the hockey aside, that's what I think he'll be remembered for, all of the things, all the great work he did.
And interestingly enough, that his charity work actually probably prolonged his life. From what I'm reading, is that when he said that he was going to raise, I believe, like $1 million for Huntington Hospital, when you get a donor of that size, you take out an insurance policy. And during his insurance, I guess it's the
medical exam for the insurance. Yeah.
Right. Something was picked up, and he was treated, but in the end, it's what got him. But such a gentle giant. I spoke to Bobby Nystrom last night. He was devastated because he said not only a great teammate, but just a great human being. And really, you hear all those names and those players, and there was so much leadership on those teams. Obviously, you don't win 4 Stanley Cup without a tremendous amount of leadership, starting with Al Arbor. But he was one of the quiet leaders and a very funny guy. He also knew just when to push the right buttons. One of the great stories is Al Arbor came in and, just ripped the team apart because he looked at the stat sheet and said, you guys are unbelievable. You guys, registered one hit the entire period. It's unacceptable. One hit. And then Arbor walks out and Jethro stands up. He goes, all right, which one of you idiots was the only guy to throw a hit? If we didn't throw the one hit, we wouldn't have had to hear it. But he knew when to talk and when to stand up. And he's going to be missed, and the feeling at UBS when the news hit was not, it was just devastating because it came out of nowhere. No one, he kept his illness quiet, didn't go public with it, and no one knew he was battling it. And then all of a sudden the news trickled out, and the tributes poured out. Flowers were already left in front of.
He was young. I mean, he's younger than me.
67, right? 67 years old. Yeah. But he will, his number hangs in the rafters, and, his number will be on the jerseys now for the rest of the season as well. Mike, let's switch gears to you, and we'll talk a little bit, the coming of age of Chris Kreider. He's already surpassed his high ever. He leads the league in goals. He's got a shot at 50 goals this year, which is a number that not many Rangers have hit in the past. Not only that, if he hits the 50 goal mark, he will end up being the number 10 goal scorer in New York Ranger franchise history. He'll pass Walter Tkachuk, and I believe he will pass Bill Cook to be number 10 on the all-time list. Have you seen any difference in Kreider's game? I mean, sometimes it's just puck luck. What have you noticed about him this year?
I was actually mentioning earlier today that he's the weirdest 30-goal scorer I've ever seen. You usually see these 30-goal scorers coming out of nowhere, picking corners. 90% of his goals come from right in front of the net, so I don't notice any difference in his game other than he's just finishing his chances now.
And I think he worked hard also. Listen, deflecting pucks is an absolute art. It's timing, it's hand-eye coordination, it's confidence also to go to. I also, it's interesting. I have a theory also that what made him a great player when he first came up was the way he always drove to the net. And I think what happened was early on in his career, after the Carey Price incident, he was almost a marked man. And every single time he made incidental contact with a goalie, he was called for interference. And I think he pulled off of that a little bit. And I think now he's going back to the net, back to those dirty places. And he's learned, how to position himself where he doesn't make contact with the goalie. And it's just phenomenal what he's doing this season.
I mean, not only that, but now he's causing problems from outside the crease for the goalie. The goalie's getting mad at him now. They're pushing him out of the crease. He's getting them out of position. They showed on the Panarin goal last night. The goalie went out of his position to try to see, and the puck went right in. Right. He didn't get an assist, but he was the reason the puck went in the net.
And we didn't speak to David Quinn about this because we really just wanted to focus on the Olympics. But David Quinn last year moved him up to the PK. And he scored this year his first shorthanded goal. He is a force on the PK as well because of his speed. And he is using his speed again, which is something, it was tough being a Ranger fan and watching him because there would be days where, a week where he wasn't a force. You never saw him, and where's Chris Kreider? And now he's starting to really be one of the NHL's elites. And I think the guy he might have the biggest impact, and we might not see it for a year or two. I think Julien Gauthier, if he stays with the Rangers, he is similar. He's got that blazing speed. He's got the size. He likes to go to the dirty areas of the net, in front of the net. I think if he continues to watch Kreider and Kreider can mentor him a little bit, you might see, listen, he's not going to be the same as Kreider, but I can see Julien Gauthier being a 12 to 15 goal scorer easily in this league.
Yeah, someone with his size and speed combination, you don't see that very often. He has great hands also. It's not like he's like a slouch out there. He can drive to the net. He drives to the net every single game. He just can't finish the puck. Right. Once he gets that down in his game, I think he's going to be a force on the third line, even second line eventually.
Lastly, the Flyers have done something that no team has done in the last 11 years. They've had 2 10-game losing streaks in the same season. You look at the Flyers in the beginning, where they were coming into the season, they had pretty decent expectations. What have you seen from the Flyers that cost Alain Vigneault his job and most likely is going to cost their next coach a job as well?
They have no defense. I mean, they brought in Rasmus Ristolainen and Keith Yandel, but neither one of them are exactly stud defenseman, plus Ryan Ellis being hurt all year. Carter Hart playing inconsistently. He'll have one game where he makes 45 saves and looks like the best goalie in the league. And then he'll have it the next night, he'll let in 5 goals on 25 shots. I think that's the ultimate problem.
The one guy you just did mention, as long as you mentioned, this week he will pass a tremendous milestone. He will break the Ironman record in the NHL, and that's Keith Yandel. And, it was interesting because they will play the Islanders the day before he breaks the record. But when you take a look at that and you realize that between Andy Green, Zdeno Chara, and Keith Yandel, there are over 3,700 games played by defense. Okay, that's a tough position not to get injured and to have, over 1,000 games for the three of them. And Yandel especially, to be able to do this in a COVID world makes that Ironman streak even more remarkable.
No, I completely agree. I think it's insane. I think it just shows their work ethic that they have in the off season during the regular season. I mean, to be able to play that many straight games or that many games in a career, you got to have, first of all, great luck, but you also have to have the work ethic to be able to stay there.
John Myers is happy that the Flyers stink because he says he hates the damn Flyers. So shout out to John Myers, who probably just finished watching the game and tuned in. So we thank him for that. AJ, anything else you want to add on hockey? I guess not. All right. So AJ doesn't want to chime in on that. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk basketball, and we're going to give Jay Retcher a little time to come off the ledge. I am sure he is just super, super upset after a tremendous comeback by Tampa Bay, only to give up a big play on defense and, set them up for a field goal to win the game, and LA moves on. Let's say LA. So unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, we'll take a quick break. On the other side, we'll talk NBA with Chaim Tauber. If you're a company looking to increase your visibility, to make sure your promotional materials get packaged in the most attractive way and distributed most efficiently, then you need to call in PIMS. Whether you're launching a new product and need to assemble customized influencer packages or looking for a more efficient way to manage your inventory and collateral, PIMS involvement helps maximize the impact of your brand's performance. For more than 30 years, PIMS has been helping companies get their message out to the right people, offering personalized distribution services and full-scale inventory management solutions. PIMS works its magic on 3 continents, backed by 350,000 square feet of warehouse space. If you're looking for experience, PIMS is it. They've shipped more than 13 million packages and elevated more than 8,000 brands. Want to know more? Check them out on the web, PIMSinc.com. That's PIMSINC.com, and read testimonials from their satisfied clients. That's PIMS, the first name in marketing support. And welcome back to Sports Talk New York on the 365 Sportscast Network. If you are just new to our show and you're watching us on Facebook Live, you might want to write this down. You can listen each and every week over the 365 Sportscast Network. You can listen to us over our iPhone app, which is a 365 Sportscast app, or on Android, same thing. And if you have Apple CarPlay, plug it into your phone and you can listen to us that way. And lastly, you can listen to us on your smart speaker. Simply enable the 365 Sportscast app and you can I just lost my headphones for some reason. Like, I can't hear anything. Mike? Just bear with us. We lost our microphone. I can't hear anything. I don't know if anyone can still hear us. There we go. I'm back. Sorry about that. Little technical difficulties right there. Like I said, and you can just enable the 365 Sportscast app and then just simply say, Alexa, play 365 Sports. Right now, it's time for the Capco NBA report with Chaim Tauber. Even though it's winter, spring will be here before you know it. It's now the time to get those windows and doors ready to let the fresh air in, the bugs out with the Clearview retractable screen. The Clearview retractable screen system comes with standard with a lifetime warranty and the patented speed reducer so it will not snap back. You get the luxury of a screen door in a sleek, low-profile design without the hassle of a bulky storm door or sliding screen door. Call 631-440-1100 for a free estimate. That's 631-440-1100, or visit them on the web at clearviewlongisland.com. All right, Chaim, how you doing?
Not bad, you guys. How are you?
We're doing good. So what I wanted to talk about is, this week, Dwight Howard passed Nate Thurmond for 10th place among the league's all-time rebounding leaders. He trails 9th place Kevin Garnett by fewer than 200 rebounds. He owns 5 rebounding titles in addition to 8 All-Star honors, 8 NBA All-NBA selections, 5 All-Defensive nods, 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards, 2 block title shots. Yet, for some reason, I think he's kind of faded into the background over the years. What do you think his legacy in the game is going to be maybe 10 years down the road? And why do you think, Dwight Howard all of a sudden, years ago, the Superman and all that, and now you never really even hear about him?
Yeah, his Dwight Howard's legacy is going to be one of the most complex, complicated, and overly dissected ones when he is eligible for the Hall of Fame, probably ever, in that he was an unstoppable force. He was a Shaq-like force in the league when the league was completely barren as far as big men go. Ben Wallace and the Pistons had just finished their run at the height of their powers, and there really wasn't a big man to be found. It was Dwight Howard going up against the Zadrunas of the world. That's not easy to say. And, rebounds and dunks and highlight reels, and he had the smile, the body, the personality, the slam dunk champion. He was the it boy, the golden boy, and then things didn't work out in Orlando. Things didn't end the right way in Orlando. He took them to a finals run with the next best player being Jameer Nelson, and, they got obliterated. And then after that, there was nothing really to be said for him. It was a messy ending. It didn't work anywhere after that. Atlanta was a mess. LA was a mess. Everything was a mess. And then finally, he's kind of taken on this bit as just another big in an NBA that's completely done away with the traditional bigs, the back to the basket, back down, power big, the rebounding and block shots. That was found a niche. He's a guy who comes off the bench. He gives you some good minutes. He can run the floor. He can finish. He can try to fit he was the Clint Capella mold before there was a Clint Capella, but Clint Capella is not a Hall of Famer. Dwight Howard has the numbers, the stats, the rankings. He's been around long enough that he was able to compile those in a league where there was nobody there to stop him. When you think big men of all time, Dwight Howard probably doesn't crack the top 15 that you think of. But statistically, he's climbing that ladder.
When you think about the one thing that's not on his resume, what you see like on a LeBron resume is multiple championships.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, let's put him in a different perspective. Compare him to another Hall of Famer who did not win a championship, and that's Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
Dwight Howard had bad endings in multiple places. And that really, I think, puts a big knock, on his whole resume. But compare him to Patrick Ewing.
Well, if you're looking at Patrick Ewing, you also have to consider the era. Now, I'm not talking about the physical NBA versus the handshake NBA. I'm talking about David Robinson, Alonzo Mourning, Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon. That was the era of the bigs. And Patrick Ewing was right up there amongst the greatest of the great. That's a dream team member. I don't think anybody in their right mind, unless they're under the age of 20 or they're looking simply at the stats, would think Dwight Howard is a Patrick Ewing caliber player. Dwight Howard could not carry a team in any Eastern Conference other than the one that he did.
Right. So, by the way, how many people actually remember who Nate Thurman was? I thought Nate Thurman was.
Yeah. No, not many, but people who know basketball and are going to be able to talk legacy and be able to talk NBA and for NBA Hall of Fame, I should say, and all-time greats, and people who can intelligibly have those conversations know where Nate Thurman ranks, and they know what Nate Thurman was. Nate Thurman was a guy who would get you a million boards. He was a guy who was dominant on the glass, and that's what Dwight Howard could have been or should have been in any other era. That Dwight Howard was a 25-point-a-game scorer and a guy who was the face of a franchise in the NBA Finals. That tells me more about the era than about the player. I don't know how history is going to see him. I don't know if history is going to say, listen, we judge a player in their own time, and he was dominant. He was baby Shaq. He was Superman, and he brought the NBA dunk contest back. I'm not sure how people are going to look back in hindsight, but in the here and now, he was dominant in a barren wasteland.
It's fascinating because you're right, he was dominant, but I think he's going to be one of those guys. David Thompson, also another guy that you very rarely hear about. There's certain guys, for some reason, history does not treat them kindly,
right.
And I don't know why. Like David Thompson was a phenomenal player, and this generation of basketball players probably don't even know who he is.
Well, you have some guys who like Thompson who are lost in the NBA-ABA merger. I mean, Dr. J was kind of transcended, but again, a lot of his best years are behind him. But when we talk about Rick Barry's, guys who are, MVPs, all-time greats, guys who played their best years in the ABA, guys who are unquestionably all-time players. But when you look at the all 75 list, or you talk to younger, anybody younger, well, can they shoot the three-pointer, and what does their highlight tape look like? And if it's not up to snuff, and it doesn't look like an N1 mixtape, or jumps aren't ferocious, they're not remembered. And so nobody's going to remember Nate Thurman or David Thompson, and they do fly under the radar, unfortunately.
Before we go, let's do one thing about today's Knicks game. So looking at minutes, Reddish gets in. He plays his first game of the Knicks. He plays 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that just, how will that stand going forward? Is it 5 minutes now, 10 minutes next game, or is his role still waiting to be defined?
It's tough to answer that. I mean, my answer is going to have to be it's still to be defined. You have to remember the head coach is Tom Thibodeau. And with Tom Thibodeau, nobody's given minutes. The minutes are earned, or you got to earn this guy's trust. And sometimes he's really, really slow to pull the trigger if there are players who have earned his trust and you haven't yet. He typically relies on veterans. He relies on guys he knows. I mean, Taj Gibson gets him in. He's gotten minutes he wouldn't have gotten anywhere else in the world. Cam Reddish, I have a funny feeling that injuries are going to play a large role. He's going to get some minutes. And if he takes those minutes and runs with them, they're his to keep. But for now, I think it probably is going to be a 5, 6, 7 minute night until injuries open up some minutes for him.
All right, Chaim, we appreciate it. Chaim Tauber here each and every week with the NBA Report. We're going to take a quick break. And on the other side, just wait. You'll hear Joe Jackson any minute. So keep it tuned right here. We'll be right back.
Decolator Cohen and DePrisco, LLP, is pleased to introduce their website, policeofficersrighttosue.com, as an educational and informative site designed to instruct members of the law enforcement community of their civil rights in line-of-duty accidents. Many law enforcement members are not aware of their rights to sue and fail to bring lawsuits within a specific time frame, thereby forfeiting their ability to seek rightful compensation against those parties that cause officers to be injured. PoliceofficersRightToSue.com provides successful past results of line-of-duty lawsuits. These examples range from officers being provided with inadequate equipment, RMP accidents, slip and falls, and station house mishaps. If any law enforcement member has a question regarding a potential lawsuit, they can contact DCD at policeofficersrighttosue.com or at 1-800-901-1LAW. That's policeofficersrighttosue.com or 1-800-901-1LAW. You can read it in the Sunday papers.
Yep, Joe Jackson can only mean one thing on a Sunday night, and that's AJ's Sunday Papers, the weird story of the week. What do you got for us, AJ?
Well, the record for running a marathon is 2 hours and 1 minute. But this week, a Utah runner broke a world record with a marathon in 2 hours and 44 minutes and 12 seconds. And what is the record? He did it while dressed as a carrot. If you can believe it, there was somebody who previously ran a marathon dressed as a carrot and ran it in 2 hours, 45 minutes and 8 seconds. And I don't know what's going on with, that, but Jordan Maddox, who broke the record, dressed as a carrot, this is not the first time. Actually, it's, not his best time in a marathon dressed as something. He previously broke the Guinness Book of World Records for fastest marathon dressed as a fruit. He ran in 2 hours and 41 minutes and 17 seconds dressed as a banana. So what is the difference? Is there more, friction or something? Now think, the carrot suit probably looks a lot like the banana suit, but what is that he did not do as well dressed as a carrot as he did dressed as a banana?
That's kind of putting the carrot before the banana, whatever.
And by the way, he's actually going to now get entered into, and England has it, the World Carrot Museum.
So wait a minute. So there is actually breakdowns of marathon. So if tomorrow I decide to run the marathon in a watermelon costume, and no one's ever ran it in a watermelon costume, no matter what I come in, I would set a Guinness.
Well, the thing that gets me about this is there are a lot of things that Guinness will take because you make up the category. But in this one, he actually broke somebody else's record for running a marathon dressed as a carrot. So think about that. It's not just that somebody did it and got in Guinness. Somebody else said, I want to beat this guy who's in Guinness, and I'll be in Guinness for that category. Just think about that for a second. That's even crazier.
I kind of think it's almost like the latest, which is mayhem. Is it Allstate?
That's Allstate.
Yeah, it's the where he's doing the TikTok dance on the side. I think that could be the next mayhem commercial where you're watching a carrot run by and you get into a car accident. It's just unbelievable. It's just I just can't even fathom how someone would. Like the first person that decided, all right, I'm going to run a marathon in a carrot, and then another guy saying, and the next guy saying, I'm going to break that.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Yeah. All right, it looks like Jay Retcher is a little too despondent to pick up the phone. He might be doing post game in Tampa.
Yeah.
But
I I have to tell you, while you were doing the Quinn interview, I was watching the end of the game. And I have to say that the Rams nearly produced the biggest choke since the Falcons against Tom Brady. And if you take a look at what happened in that game, what Brady did at the end of the game was amazing. He does it all the time. But the fact that the Rams, on different occasions, nearly handed Brady that game with fumbles, with bad snaps. Cooper Kupp, who eventually redeemed himself at the end of the game with 2 great catches, fumbled the ball on a catch. Who was the running back fumbled twice. Once at the end of the first half, when they're down on the 1, would have been a touchdown, would have been a huge, almost insurmountable lead going into the locker room at halftime, fumbled again at the end of the game. And then there was a snap where Stafford's looking somewhere else and the ball snapped to him.
Yep.
The Rams gave the Buccaneers as many chances to win that game. And look, the other thing to think about, and Jay would talk about this too if we were talking with Hugh Reachable tonight, is that if you look last weekend, the biggest criticism of last weekend's games was that they were not competitive. We have now had 3 out of 3 NFL playoff games this weekend settled on by last-minute field goals.
And interestingly enough, all the visiting teams won. No home team has won. So that's interesting. But you know what? I'm not going to I get 100% what you're saying about the Rams almost handing them the game. But there's something to be said about the Brady mystique and you know the pressure that comes with it, that you know that you're never out of it. And when you start seeing it, you know, when you see that turn, the tide turn, it's difficult to right the ship. And I can understand because, you know what, I was listening on the way in tonight, and they were already giving the Rams this game in the first half. All right. And then, you know, I think Brett, who was getting ready for his show, you know, he was saying, oh, you know, he's not. And Mike and I both said, I would never bet against Brady. You know, listen, hate him, despise him, whatever you want. But there's no getting around the fact that this guy has a competitive spirit that we've never seen before and has the ability to rally his team no matter what the deficit is and bring them back in a game. And he basically was 4 seconds away. You know, his defense let him down, which was strange because the whole second half, they really tightened up a little bit, starting with that, you know, takeaway down at the, you know, in the red zone at the end of the half.
The other takeaway on this, too, is the person who redeemed himself was Matthew Stafford, who had this rep of not being able to win the big game or not, you know, being not a big game quarterback. And when he was with Detroit, and of course he came to Los Angeles in the offseason and the trade, and he played a hell of a game today. He, you know, redeemed himself in the first half, and when push came to shove, he found Cooper Kupp not once but twice in a row to set up the game-winning field goal. By the way, let's look at one other thing before we go. Now you've got 2 quarterbacks who have to really make decisions now. You know, have we seen the last of Tom Brady since he went out not on a winning note? Have we seen the last of Aaron Rodgers? What do you think? What's your betting money on whether either of them or both will come back next season?
It's an interesting call. I have a feeling that Brady's back. It's a tough call with Rodgers. I mean, given the crap that Rodgers pulled the beginning of this year, you know, all that. Yeah. And with listen,
the contract and with the
right,
COVID.
and you know, will he be that much close? Listen, I think if he comes back again and fails to get back to a Super Bowl, he kind of kills his legacy a little bit. I think, you know, I don't know if he overachieved this year with that team. Listen, that loss is more on their special teams coach. I think the best tweet I saw was basically the Green Bay Packers should fire their special teams coach, rehire him so they can fire him again.
Right. I mean, not since the Brett Favre days. A Packers defensive coordinator you and I knew very well because he lived down the block from you, got fired because of a 4th and 24 conversion that cost them a game. Have we seen a situation where a particular side of the ball, in this case special teams, demonstrably cost them a game? From the block punt that went to the touchdown to, you know, other things in the game, you know, missed kicks. Special teams were absolutely awful, you know. Green Bay, you're right. They're going to have a different different coach.
All right, looking at the game tonight, Mike feels that the Bills are going to win. I just like Brady, I would never bet against Pat Mahomes. I just think that, somehow he gets it done. What's your feelings on the game tonight?
Well, Buffalo's leading 7-0. I think it's going to be a tight game. You want to pick Kansas City? I pick Buffalo.
Really? Okay. And why? Just defense, or
I just think that Josh Allen is he's coming to his own. I think he's the new Pat Mahomes.
Wow, the new Pat Mahomes. A guy's in the league 4 years, and already there's a new Pat Mahomes. All right, let's see. I see. Listen, it could be the same type of game. It could be where they fall behind early, a big score. Mahomes rallies them, and then it's going to be a last-minute thing. I mean, listen, this weekend has certainly made up for last weekend for sure. All the games were compelling. I'm sure this one tonight will be just as compelling as the other three this weekend, and it will set up a great weekend, hopefully next weekend. In these championship games, and we'll talk all about it next week. So, AJ, have yourself a good week. We're going to make way. Mark. We're going to make way for Brett. And Brett, why don't you come on and tell us what you have on the show? Brett's coming, and he can even try the new mic. Let's see. We set up another microphone. Oh, it's not in. Oh, never mind. No, you got.
I got to use Mike's mic. I'm here. Hi, how are you?
Good. So, who you got tonight?
I'm really excited tonight. I have a legendary. Although I call him legendary on Twitter, and he said that means I'm calling him old. Wally Matthews, a great boxing columnist and New York sports columnist. I have Chris King, radio voice of the New York Islanders. And I'm going to start the show, Mark, with possibly the most ridiculous lawsuit ever filed, and that happened this week. So stay tuned.
I'm going to have to wait now?
Yep. That's it. Because otherwise I'll have no listeners.
All right, so keep it tuned right here again. You're listening to the 365 Sportscast Network. It can be heard on your iPhone app, your Android app, your Alexa or smart speaker app, as well as the 365sportscast.com. And you can watch Sports Talk New York on Facebook Live, YouTube Live as well. But make sure you keep it tuned right here because BT Talks Everything, including lawsuits, is coming up right after these messages.